I'll start off just with a bit of housekeeping for everybody who's here. Obviously, everyone's kind of on mute just so that we can hear you sharing your wisdom with us. But if anybody does have any kind of questions or anything like that, just pop them in the chat box, or just let me know that you have a question in the chat box. Because after we've been having a little chat for a while, we will open it up to kind of everybody just asking any questions that they want, really, if that's all right with you, Nicola.
Yeah, I love questions. The more
perfect. Yeah, me too. So yeah, just pop those in the chat box as we go, and let me know if you want to come on live to speak kind of face to face, which you don't have to. You can just ask via the chat box, but some people like to, and it's always nice to have people asking questions in person. So yeah, let me just admit this person. So just so that you know a little bit about the summit, Nicola, and for anybody who's new, because it's been going on since January, it's all about self-rediscovery, which you probably got from the, from the title. But for me, that's kind of twofold. So I think a lot of people come to self-rediscovery with the idea of it kind of being about changing something about their lives, or, you know, kind of exploring who we are in our human forms. And that is kind of part of it. But for me, it's also much more about seeing something deeper about who we really are and rediscovering who we really are beyond kind of all thought and all narratives and all stories, in our wisdom. So that's what this summit's kind of been about. And we've heard from lots of different speakers about their kind of journeys and lots of different topics and things that we've been exploring, but obviously with the same wisdom underneath all of it, really. So it's been fun, and so today I'm really looking forward to exploring kind of anxiety and panic attacks and stress, because that's, I think, something that a lot of people can relate to. So yeah, we're live most Fridays. We've got some exciting speakers coming up, and had some great ones on, so there's lovely replays to have a little listen to in the member vault. And if anybody's kind of struggling with any questions, I'm always kind of on hand to help with those. And I'm also always on the Self-Rediscovery Facebook community as well. I'm just going to add this other person. So I'm just going to formally introduce you, and then we'll dive in, if that's okay. So yeah, so you obviously share all about how to find peace of mind and freedom from anxiety, panic and stress, and we met a little while back when you were reviewing my book, which was really nice. And then I came on your podcast and we had such a lovely conversation that I thought it'd be really nice to have you on here. So thank you. Yeah, I just a little bit about your background. I guess over 20 years ago, you describe yourself as starting to experience anxiety and panic, but not having any idea what started them off. And your journey is quite similar to mine in that respect, that you kind of then explored lots of different kind of tools and techniques, I guess. So meditation, you know, seeing a psychiatrist, cognitive behavioural therapy, NLP, tapping, you know, all of it. I've kind of done all of that as well. And you also studied psychology, got into personal development and trained as a coach. And then nothing really worked, which is kind of, again, my experience. And then you say you stumbled across a completely new way of understanding how human beings create their experience of anxiety and how to dissolve it almost effortlessly with a completely revolutionary approach. So yes, that's basically what we're here to chat about. So I think people like a bit of a personal story. I always say this. So I guess I'm just going to hand over to you, really, to share a little bit about your journey, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, how cool that you created this summit with no idea of the context in which it would take place. All these calls that you've been doing with people, like how brilliant is that?
I know, it's really fun to see it kind of unfold, and we've got some great speakers on. It's really fun, and that's why I'm extending it, really, because it was only meant to go until March, and then yeah, it's just
well, I think there's a need for it right now, right? So it's a very cool thing to be doing. So thank you for inviting me. It's really nice to be here to start with. So I know some of you know my story already, because I can see some familiar faces, but I know I haven't met all of you. So kind of in a nutshell, I guess. Yeah, so 20 years of panic attacks and stress and anxiety, and all the tools and techniques tried. And then what happened for me is I had a period of absolute, total and utter wipeout burnout in 2013, where I got flu, and then I got migraines, and then I didn't leave the house for 3 weeks, right? And then at the end of the 3 weeks, I found I couldn't go out again, right? I was so used to being at home, and I got so nervous and agoraphobic and claustrophobic, and I just couldn't. When it came to leaving the house again after that period of time, I just couldn't do it. And I'd had periods of that on and off and on and off and on and off, but 2013 was really bad. And eventually I came out the other side of that with the realization, like, there's something wrong with the way I'm living my life. Like, this is like, it's got to be simpler than this. There's something up with this. And that kind of percolated for me for a little while. And then in the summer of 2013, I hit a huge number in my business. I used to own a software company, and I hit a big number in my software company, and all of a sudden there was just everything I thought that was going to be there wasn't, that I'd worked so hard for just wasn't there. And at that point I thought, oh, I must be in the wrong job. So I need a new career, because if I had a new career, then I'd be happy and fulfilled, right? So, and it's got to be simpler, I'm sure, because I just had this feeling that something was off, but I thought it was something outside of me that needed to change. So I decided I was going to retrain. I trained as a coach many years ago, but I wasn't very good at it, so I'd given it up and become a software person instead. And so I thought, I know, I'll go back and retrain to be a coach, but I'll go and do it properly this time. So I'll go and train with Michael Neal, because I know he's really good at coaching stuff. And so I signed up on his Super Coach Academy without really knowing what I was letting myself in for.
Amazing.
And went along, spoke to Michael, signed up on his program, very quickly signed up and became an apprentice of his, and spent 2014 doing Super Coach Academy and being an apprentice with Michael. And really, because I hired him because I wanted to change my career, and I wanted to know what I was going to do with my business and my career direction, and what I was going to do with my life. And after about 10 weeks, I realized my anxiety had gone, even though we hadn't actually talked about it.
I love that.
Yeah. So, but it had gone, and I started doing things like I'd been restricted in where I could drive and where I could go and what I could do. And I noticed that I started doing these things again, but it was like they were a big deal, but they weren't a big deal, because it just felt really normal. It wasn't like in the old days where, oh my God, I drove on a motorway and it was the hardest thing ever, but I did it. Yeah. Like, there wasn't any of that. It was like, oh, that's weird. I just drove on a motorway. Right? It was just weird changes in behavior without me trying to do the changes in behavior.
I love that, because I always say there's kind of nothing to do, and that kind of proves it, because it's like you didn't try and change that, it just kind of happened.
No, it just was like one day I could not go more than 26 minutes from my house, and then the next day I was like, I wonder if I could take my daughter to Disneyland Paris, and booking tickets. It was like, which was totally impossible and totally just not possible for me to do before then. It was weird. It was really like, it was weird. Yeah. But I still didn't, I carried on kind of trying to teach what I was understanding to business owners, which was the group of people that I had traditionally been working with, like coaches and business owners. And so I continued to do business coaching, but trying to bring what I had learned through working with Michael, the principles understanding, into that work. And it was a mishmash of my old stuff and my new stuff and all the rest of it. And it actually took me about 3 years. It took me till 2017, in February that year, I remember, to suddenly having the thought, I heard someone talking about, oh, I'd love to do this amazing thing in the world, but I can't because I have anxiety. And I just thought, oh, I could help you with that, I think. Like, I know it's worked for me. I don't know if it worked for you, but it worked for me. So do you want to give it a go? And I ended up creating a pilot, which was that was my Little Peace of Mind program. And that's when I started really sharing what it was that I'd seen for me that had been so helpful. And it just so happened that it helped loads of other people as well.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of my personal turnaround, but without really appreciating quite what a big deal that had been.
Yeah.
Until I started sharing it with other people, and then seeing it really shift for them in a way that really surprised me. Like I'd worked as a coach since 2003, and I'd never seen those kind of results in any of the work that I'd done.
Yeah.
Up until 2017.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
to me, it's like it's a real great example of the fact that there's literally nothing to do. And I guess a lot of people struggle to get their heads around that when the world is so kind of focused on self-help and fixing things and changing the external. And that's kind of what I'm pointing to with the self-rediscovery. It's like that actually once we discover kind of how the mind works and how life works, then it kind of all falls away by itself. So I wonder if you can kind of explain, I don't know, it's always a difficult one, isn't it? Like, what is it that you did see that kind of changed everything? What is it that you teach, I guess?
Well, it just reflecting back on that, there's nothing to do. I think what's become more and more apparent to me is that there is something to do, and it's listen. That's it. Which isn't really a doing, it's a lack of doing, but that's all that's required. If you learn how to listen, if you get a feel for what listening is, and then you show up in front of someone who points to truth, then everything changes in a way that your tiny little intellectual mind can't understand. That's it.
It's like a deeper listening in a way.
It's like a what?
Deeper listening in a way. It's not like, I don't know. What I guess for some people they might be like, well, listen to what?
Yeah. So well, when I say listening, I just mean like showing up with as little on your mind as you can. And to me, it was so cool, actually. I heard Linda Pransky coaching somebody once, and she was coaching a client, and she was talking, and suddenly she stopped, and she said to the client, "Are you listening to me, or are you thinking about what I'm saying?" And that really helped me see what listening was, because all the time I had been listening to what people were saying. I was listening, and I was thinking about what they were saying the whole time. And I realized, oh, not that. And it was like, it's an absence of that. It's a showing up, and whatever thoughts are chuntering along in my mind is just not relevant. Like, they can chunter away, but there's something, it's kind of like your soul listens in a way that your ears can't. Like, you don't need your ears. Your ears can be listening to all this if you want. But your soul, it's like your soul listens and gets impacted by the soul of the person in front of you, and something weird and invisible that you cannot comprehend, won't understand, can't even hear, totally invisible. There's some crazy thing that goes on at that level, that if you know that's where change happens, you get less enamored with what's going on up here. So you're able to be impacted. You're able to listen to be impacted.
I love that. The soul listening. I love that. That's
that's how it feels to me. That's how it feels to me. It's that, you know, when I sit with coaches and my own coaches and mentors, and it might be like, I'll be saying, oh, I don't know. I don't really understand what you're saying. I don't really get, that doesn't sound like anything new. To be told, I don't really care what you think, because I'm not talking to your intellect. It's like, it stops all my arguments in their track, you know, like, oh, you're so right. So that's the kind of doing, I guess. It's like you show up and do your best to listen.
Yeah.
And so
it feels like a non-doing when you're doing it, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's so subtle, because unless you have an understanding of what listening is, you show up and do nothing, but what's invisible to you is the fact that you're listening and thinking about what the person is saying. Like, that was invisible to me before. So I thought I was doing nothing, because I had never heard anyone talk about listening, that not listening in that way before.
Yeah.
But as soon as I was woken up to the fact of it, that invisible became visible, and it allowed me to get quieter and listen.
Yeah, getting quiet, I like that. It's I guess for some people who at home who've got a really busy mind, that might be quite a foreign concept, I guess. And so I don't know if there's any way of really explaining that in a way that might speak to people who are like, well, how do I listen?
Well, it doesn't really matter whether you do or you don't, right? Because your busy mind can do whatever it wants, in a way. Like, I know that sounds completely the opposite of what I've just said, but I have yet to meet a more busy-minded person than I was when I started working with Michael Neal. And yet within 10 weeks, there was still a busy mind, but there was change and impact, you know, in that period. So we show up and we are listening, even when we in the way that we would describe it. But I've got a busy mind and my mind's really wearing and I can't take anything in. There is still soul to soul listening happening anyway, because such is the power of truth that it wakes you up regardless. You know, we have so many stories in the principles community of people who were in a rage or angry or annoyed with Sid Banks, or, you know, just going to Sid Banks meetings to see if they can pick up men and not really listening, and suddenly being impacted.
Yeah, you can't really control whether you're listening or not. It's just kind of going on.
No, but if you understand a little more about it, it changes how you show up to the conversation, I think.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Well, just like I just don't really care whether I agree with the speaker or not agree with the speaker, or whether that fits with what my understanding is, or whether that sounds right or wrong, or is that different, or is that helpful, and how does that apply to me? And like the way, like, to know that what my little mind is thinking about makes no difference to the impact on me, means that it's free to do its shenanigans, but I don't have to get caught up in that, distracted by that. It's just not relevant.
Yeah, so for me it kind of speaks to I often describe it as kind of like just not ignoring, but seeing that there's this power of thought that's kind of creating our experience of life, and that really that doesn't really mean an awful lot, I guess.
Yeah, there's I love this expression, but there's a hidden realm that lies beyond our personal mind, and that's where change happens.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I refer to, or have referred to, as like wisdom throughout this kind of series.
Yeah,
I think there's lots of different words that everybody uses to explore that for themselves, or to define that, I guess, for themselves. So, you know, whether that be God, divinity, you know, nature, I don't know, I guess, is that kind of what we're listening for in your
I don't know, like, it's kind of, it feels to me that I no longer am listening for anything, but I know when I've seen it, because I find a beautiful feeling.
Yeah.
Do you know that this is, I feel like I'm talking in riddles tonight, but it's if I'm listening for anything, then that's just another thing that my little mind is doing.
Yeah.
But when it's just, you know, there was a quote in a book that I love that Linda Queering wrote, who spent a lot of time with Sid Banks, and she wrote about some time she spent with Sid, where she sat with Sid and she said, look, Sid, you know, we don't understand it when you start talking about the allness and the isness and the oneness and the thisness and the thatness, and like we just don't understand you, Sid, when you talk about that. And he said, well, then why don't you just stop trying? And I am so reminded of that, because if I find myself listening and I'm not understanding, or it's not helpful, or it's making me cross, right?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Then I just realized, oh, it's because I've started trying to understand again.
Yeah.
And then I stop trying, and I find that I get impacted.
Yeah, it's usually kind of like a sign that you're kind of getting into thought when you start to look for it, I guess. Whereas when you're more in that beautiful feeling that you describe, it's almost like you're kind of describing it, that you're listening for a beautiful feeling but without really trying.
Yeah, but it's more like, and this is a much used metaphor, right? But it's like your favorite song on the radio, right? When you listen to your favorite song on the radio, you're not listening to, well, how does this apply to my job, right? When you're listening to the lyrics in it, right? Well, yeah, but how does this apply to my boyfriend, right? Like how but this song should be slower. This song is going too fast. I don't get this song. Why are they singing along? I don't get this song, right? You're not trying to process it in that way. You're also not listening to it going, oh, I really hope I get a beautiful feeling. There better be a beautiful feeling, right? Like, if I get a beautiful feeling, then I know I'm being impacted by this song. And yet, when you fall out of all your thinking, you just find yourself really enjoying the song.
Yeah.
And that's how you know you are being touched at a soul level by that song.
Yeah. And yeah, a bit like kind of the anxiety fell away and you were just in that feeling, but there was nothing that you'd done to get there. It was
like, what do you do to like suddenly find yourself singing along to the radio? Nothing. You don't do that. It's just what happens when you fall out of thought. And to me, being in this conversation, or working with my mentors, or going to the conferences, or listening to the speakers, is so much more now. Like, it wasn't at the beginning, but it's so much more now. Like sticking on my favorite radio show. It's like sticking on Magic FM and all the cheesy old favorites that just come along and light you up, is just playing along in the background. And I want to be listening to something like this virtual summit like it's Magic FM.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, like, it's that easy. It is that, you know how easy it is when you listen to Magic FM and suddenly you find yourself singing along to something from my decade, the 80s, right? So my age.
I love it.
Yeah, but it's like you suddenly find, or you're twirling around the kitchen to ABBA or something, and it's like, it's not hard. People think, oh, it's so hard, I don't get it. It's like, it's really complicated. How do I get it? How do I get in a quiet mind so that I can get it? How do I find a quiet feeling? How do I change this and that? And it's like, oh, it's actually as simple as dancing around the kitchen singing to ABBA.
Yeah, it's funny.
You just think it's harder than that.
Yeah, and when I'm I have a lot of clients who come to me kind of like, well, I really want to understand what these 3 principles are.
Yeah.
I love what you've just said, because it's like, well, we don't really need to know them, much like we don't need to know how gravity works. It's like,
yeah,
it's just kind of there
Well,
happening.
that's like coming to you and saying, well, I really want to enjoy ABBA. So I need to know, can you tell me what the time signature is, what key it's in, how many of them singing at any point, and how do I pull those harmonies apart? Because if I could just understand how the 3 voices are working together, then I'll get it. Like, no, sorry. You missed the point of ABBA.
Yeah, it's only then that I can enjoy the music, right?
Yeah, yes. And you're like, oh God, what a way to destroy a song. Why would you want to do that?
I love that metaphor. Yeah, I love your metaphors, actually. I think that's one of the things I love about you is the way that you kind of just pull a metaphor from like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I guess it's funny because with what's going on in the world at the moment, it's almost like I don't know, it's something that I think is a lot of people are feeling, that anxiety. So I don't know whether it's worth speaking to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that as we were coming onto the call, because obviously the call was about peace in insane times, right? And I was reflecting on the fact that this is not, the whole situation we're in is not cool, right? So I'm going to say something, it's really cool that there's never ever in my lifetime that I can see has there been a time when it's so apparent that thought creates reality.
Yeah, it's really
like that we're feeling our thinking.
Yeah,
like really, because it's so easy to point people to the principles at the moment, because we're sitting there and there's a virus and X number of people are dying, and there's X in the supermarkets, and there's X number of ventilators, and there's stories and politics and all the rest of it going on. And one minute you can feel terrified And the next minute you're wondering what to have for dinner and nothing's changed.
Yeah.
The virus is still there, right? And nothing's changed. So that's really easy to see, because all of us, you know, I can't imagine there's an exception on the call that haven't got, over the last few weeks, really caught up in their heads and terrified at some point over the last few weeks. And also there's nobody on this call that hasn't had the thought, I wonder what's for dinner, right? Like it's, and drop the fear and the thought in an instant. And yet the circumstances,
enjoying the sunshine as well, like it's been beautiful and sunny.
Yeah, and just and had that complete, absolute different experiences. Like over the last 4 weeks, I love it that the virus has been a constant, and yet all of us have experienced love, peace, frustration, fear, joy, which shows us it can't. There is nothing. Worry is not a symptom of coronavirus.
Yeah,
it's not. It's like, yes, a cough, yes, a high temperature, yes, doesn't come with worry. It's definitely not one of the symptoms, right? And so we get to see that the worry bit's optional. But we also get to see, and I think this is really cool, like last night I was awake all night. I literally woke up at midnight and couldn't get back to sleep again, worrying about what plants needed to go where in my flower beds. Like literally up all night trying to figure it out, worrying about it, like really stressing over it. And like, but if I put them there, but then maybe I want to do some videos, but if I do videos, then how am I going to do this? And I was every bit as caught up in my head about flower beds as I had been 4 weeks ago about coronavirus. And it just reminded me of the fact, before coronavirus, I'd be up all night worrying about, I don't know, what my kids were doing in school.
Yeah.
Right? Or whether I needed to go on a diet, or coronavirus, or where my flipping flower beds should go. Right? Or whether my dog needs behavioural training, or like it's I remember doing a video about the worry bucket is always full. And that shows that we have the capacity to worry no matter what.
Yeah. And
that after coronavirus is gone, it's not like we're going to stop worrying.
No.
Just worry about different stuff.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, this is such a cool time to get some insight into the nature of worry and the nature of peace and the nature of the fact that worry always arises, and it's our relationship to it that makes all the difference.
Yeah, that's one thing I love, because when you obviously talk a lot about peace of mind and finding freedom, and I think to a lot of people that speaks of getting rid of worry and anxiety and panic attacks and stress. And I guess
that would be stressful if you had to do that. That's the only problem my clients have, actually, all of them. It's like, I'm really worried because I'm trying to get rid of all my worry and stress, and I can't. And I'm like, no wonder you're stressed.
I know, that happened to me as well. I realised that when I
me too.
Came to the principles, like, oh, I'm just worried about being worried. This is ridiculous. But it's for me, it's almost like we're just changing the relationship with that, I guess. Is that how you would describe it? It's not that we have to like get rid of our anxiety, because we're human, right?
Yeah, well, we can't.
Yeah.
But I do notice that it's weird, because you can't get rid of it. You're always going to have sleepless nights of worry, because we're human beings, right? And that's one of the things that we get to do with thought. But what I have noticed is that I am so unremarkably unfreaked out by, over the last 4 weeks. In fact, I've had an absolutely wonderful time over the last 4 weeks in resting in peace of mind the majority of the time. It's like there's a settledness in my soul right now. There's an appreciation of beautiful things, that just like so many beautiful things, and the weather, but which is like weirdly just God switched on the sunshine at the same time as the virus, which is weird, but okay. And I just see this outpouring of care. I see, gosh, there's never been an opportunity where if you want to give, there's an opportunity for every single person to give and help others, no matter what, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a stay-at-home mum, whether you're a fireman, whether you're a banker, whether you're whatever, whether you're a child, whether you're 85. Like there's never been an opportunity to, in fact there's always been opportunities to contribute, but never has it been as apparent. Never have we had so much gratitude for how other people are contributing. Like there's just so much beauty and love and connection in the world in front of my eyes, and I feel like I'm basking, like my life is full of that right now.
It's really interesting because for me it's like it's almost like this has kind of reminded us of what's already there in a way, because that's there all the time. It's just we're so in our heads, in our busy minds all the time, that we don't really see that connection and love. And for me that's kind of, I don't know, for me that's what it feels like when I am kind of listening. It's almost like that's what comes up when I truly listen, is that connection and love that's naturally there. And again, those for me are just other labels for wisdom, the kind of the natural intelligence behind life. And I think as well, the virus, you know, there is kind of still a natural intelligence behind that. You know, there's things that have improved because of the virus. So, you know, the environment's better off, and like you say, there's a lot of positives. The reconnection of the world, although we're kind of social distancing, there's been a lot of reconnection through it. And so and
the breakthroughs in technology and what humans are capable of, and how amazingly better prepared we'll be for next time around, and all that kind of stuff. It's phenomenal. Like the things that we thought were impossible people are making happen in a way that everyone said it couldn't be done before.
But for me, I guess there's still that kind of those moments of fear and anxiety and different things, and I think what I learn is that through the principles is that we're kind of, it's okay to be human and to have that. And where before I might have kind of, I was constantly trying to kind of push that away and change it and fix it, kind of freedom from anxiety would have looked very much like I needed to get rid of it. But actually it's seeing that we're human and that it's okay. But I love how you describe that as, you know, we get to choose with thought. We get to choose kind of with thought. I don't know, did you say that? So you said we get to do it with thought.
Well, it's one of those paradoxes, right? Because we don't get to choose what thoughts arrive in our head.
No.
And yet, you know, when I have conversations with my mum, like a couple of weeks ago, and she'd be like, yeah, but what if there's not enough ventilators, and what if people have to go to hospital, and what if there's not enough food in the shops, and what if I can't get this, and what if I can't get that, but we need to worry about ventilators. And I was like, well, the only thing that I can see is that the less we worry, the better it is for our immune system. So why not just get more interested in, basically she was saying, like, if you've got to worry about it, because if you don't worry about it, nothing's going to happen, and we won't change everything that's going to happen. And I was like, so what have you done then to get more ventilators to people in the hospitals, Mum? She's like, well, nothing yet, but we need to put pressure on, and we need to do this. And I was like, well, do you know what, Mum, if you chilled out a little bit, it makes it less likely that you'll need one, and that's how you can be helpful right now. And she's like, oh yeah, there's a link, Mum, between worry and your immune system. Like, what makes sense to me right now, all I can do is I want to, as best I can, have a good immune system. Like, that looks like it's, you know, that's kind of in the my business world, right? And I know that I could sit and worry about ventilators and make myself sick with worry about ventilators, and it wouldn't be very helpful to the NHS for me to do that, right? Or my family or anything. So it looks to me that when I would start what ifing, I'd go, I don't really want to do that. It looks pointless to me.
Yeah.
But that's just like, to her, it looks like that's a useful use of her mind. And to me, it just looks like it's a pointless use of my mind. So why
Yeah,
would I do it?
I guess
And
it's,
so it doesn't make sense. It's not a choice, but I noticed that we go down different routes.
yeah, yeah. And I think there's something nice about that, in that it's kind of like that balance between kind of honoring how we're feeling,
Yeah,
and kind of, for me, it's like when I'm feeling like that, it's, to me, it's almost like a sign that that's not the best place to be making decisions from,
yeah,
or kind of going down that route. And so sometimes maybe I'll just continue to have a meltdown, and
yeah,
sometimes I might go and listen to a Three Principles podcast, or something that's kind of putting me back into that conversation that points me kind of home to wisdom, I guess. And so that in effect becomes a choice, because I'm then kind of,
and I think it's what's wonderful right now, I think, is like our grounding becomes self-evident. And what I mean by that is, as I was thinking about coming onto this call, it's like I haven't had many clients this week because it's Easter, so apparently it's school holidays and Easter holidays. So I blocked out this week in my diary for kid, because the kids are going to be at home, right? Even though they've been at home for weeks now. And so I've had quite a quiet week, and I spoke to a few people last week, but I haven't been talking about the principles very much over the last couple of weeks. Now, in the past, not only would I imagine, right, because I can't possibly know, but I imagine in the old days, I would have been absolutely terrified the whole time, having panic attacks the whole time, really scared and worried, not sleeping at all, really, really panicking and stressing out and snapping at the kids, and really having a horrible time of it over the last few weeks. Plus, I would have the worry, I haven't left the house now for 3 weeks. What if I can't go again? What if about the future as well, right? So I'd be doing all of that, and just being a right mess, and be snapping at everybody, right? And becoming more infantile, as in everyone has to look after me because I can't cope, right? So that's kind of how I would have responded. And what I notice is I'm having a lovely time internally at the moment, most of the time. I'm not going to 3P resources to pick them up and try and make myself feel better.
yeah,
I'm actually fallen in love with it, like in the same way that you knew to start this summit in January. I was handed the idea of growing a flower garden in January, and how cool is that? Because that's the one place I'm allowed to go out into, and suddenly I have this whole gardening project on, and there's a real absolute moment-to-moment enjoyment of life, and a lack of actually, I need to go and listen, which podcast do I need to listen to sort me out, which is definitely how I used to be in the past. And so that's surprised me. It's like, I'm seeing that. I am really genuinely seeing that the well-being doesn't come from outside of myself. It doesn't come from being in the garden. It doesn't come from listening to Three Principles resources. It comes from being in life and living your life in this moment right now, whatever you're up to. So if you're here listening to this call now, it's being here now and listening to this call, or us talking to each other on this call. If I'm gardening, it's gardening. If it's watching Netflix, it's watching Netflix. If it's worrying, it's worrying.
Yeah.
But if it's up all night planning square footage of your flower beds, it's that, right? But it's like that. One of the things that this experience shows us right now is we have no idea what's coming tomorrow.
Yeah, I love that.
And now it's that grounding, like now is all we've got.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's because we're so often future thinkers as well, aren't we? And that's what I've kind of really found. And I guess that comes back to what the listening is. It's like this moment, this presence. We're almost listening for presence. I don't know if that makes sense. But this moment now is really the only moment we've got.
I think, that's what it shows us. It's like how it shows us what was always true. It makes the invisible visible. Like we've never known what's going to happen tomorrow because we've never known what thought will come into our mind.
We just think
we do. We just think we do. So we thought, we believed that we live in a world without virus and tomorrow will be the same.
Mm.
And then we have a thought of virus, and virus appears, you know, it's like, and then maybe tomorrow no virus appears in thought.
Mm.
Who knows, right? And we're just shown that the what ifing and thinking we knows what's going to happen tomorrow, like the idea that we could sit here now and think about, well, what will I do in September? It's like we've no idea what the world is that's going to show up in front of our eyes is going to look like in September. We've no idea what insights, we've no idea what thoughts going to show up, we've no idea what shifts in consciousness. So therefore we have no idea what we're going to experience in September.
Yeah.
And actually tomorrow is no different.
Yeah.
An hour from now is no different.
I love that. And one thing I love is that a lot of clients, and I know John said the same, have almost had breakthroughs because it's so, that is so apparent right now. It's like before we couldn't really see that, but now it's like, no, this moment is literally
so many teaching moments in the current what's going on in
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I like how you've made the distinction as well, because when I pointed towards maybe I would have listened to a podcast, that's not necessarily, you know, a lot of people would take that as a prescription, and that's not kind of what I meant. That's just something that would light me up and remind me of wisdom.
Yeah.
But loads of things that do that, and even just saying lighting me up, like, because I often say kind of follow the nice feeling and do what lights you up. It's not actually the thing that is lighting you up.
No, but it's following the wisdom. So wisdom might say, go listen to Elsie Spittle. It might say, go listen to Dickin Bettinger. It might say, go out and be in your garden, go and play with your kids, go and hide away from your kids, right? Like, like wisdom can look the opposite. Yeah. Right, so wisdom can say stay at home right now, and then wisdom can say no, go to the supermarket.
Yeah,
like it's so apparent that it's not of the form, right? Because one minute it tells you to go out, the next minute it tells you to stay home.
Yeah. And I think for me, because a lot of people often ask, you know, what's the difference? How do I know what wisdom is and what thought is? And like going back to what you said about the beautiful feeling, I think wisdom has that kind of settled feeling to it, whereas thought often has kind of an emotional charge to it. For me, at least, it's like if I'm in thinking, often it's got some kind of emotional charge. If that makes sense.
Well, I think I've put that one to rest for myself now, because I realized that wisdom always trumps thought. So wisdom's always operating.
Yeah.
And then you can have thinking about it if you want to. There's one of the things that we can do with the power of thought, but wisdom always trumps. So we're always acting, we're always in accordance with wisdom, it seems to me. Like, well, life is living us in whatever way, and sometimes life is living us with a thought storm, and that's no accident either.
Yeah, that's true. I love that. Yeah,
like it's I remember hearing Michael talk about it, actually, where he was talking, and I've heard this audio with him a million times, but I never heard him point it out this way before, where he was talking about the wisdom always in operation, and sometimes it bubbles into form in the form of an insight, like, oh, I know just what to do, or oh, I'm going to go that way, and we go, oh, that's wisdom. That's when we see the sparks when it comes into form, but actually it's invisibly running the show the whole time anyway.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. I love that.
So it's like, well, they're like, if someone's sitting here and saying, well, like right now, should I go out or should I stay home? It's like, well, are you out or are you at home? Well, I'm at home right now. Well, that'll be your answer then.
Yeah. I remember.
Like, well, shall I go out tomorrow? I don't know. Like, let's go and check in tomorrow and see if you're out or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
I remember when I was going through my divorce, and I spoke to Jenny Anderson, and she was saying, you know, I was like, I've got to make a decision. Do I want to stay or do I want to go? And she's like, well, I can't remember who it was that said it to her, but somebody had said to her, there's no decision to be made, but a decision will be made.
Yeah.
And I liked that, because it's like, oh yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah. Should I leave him or should I stay with him? Well, I don't know. Have you left him or are you with him?
Yeah.
I'm still with him, but I might go. Well, then apparently right now you're with him. That's wisdom, right? And at some point you might not be.
Yeah.
Should I have stayed, or is it really good that I left? I don't know. Did you leave? Yes. Okay, well then leaving.
Yeah. And then we leave and then we get worried about that. We're like, well, was that the right decision?
Yeah. But it's always like, you can just check in now, and how life is living us is no accident.
Yeah. And we see that in nature. Nature's kind of my favorite reminder. It's like, it's just
Yeah.
kind of, it's so evident in nature.
Yeah, like I said, at the moment, because I'm out in the garden a lot, and because I'm growing little baby seedlings and watching them grow and seeing that regardless of circumstance, that immense creative powerful force, no matter what, that life thrives, that life wants to move and expand and thrive. And that might be in the form of a seedling, and it might be in the form of a virus, and it might be in the form of weather changes.
Yeah.
But it's change and it's expansion and it's thriving in every form.
Yeah.
Life wants to experience itself in every form, even ones we haven't imagined yet, even viruses we can't imagine yet, even in universes that haven't been conceived of yet, like in every single infinite form.
Yeah. And that's amazing. It's like almost kind of knowing, if we could know, would kind of take away the possibility, because anything's possible when you don't know, I guess, which
Yeah.
is where we are. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
There was something, because you kind of, I love the stuff that you create. You just kind of, you're always creating, and I love that. And I kind of just wondered if we could talk a little bit about creativity, because it feels kind of effortless. And so I wondered if kind of after the principles, you found that was more effortless, or because it was that what you kind of went to kind of look at first with the principles when you kind of went into it.
I think what's changed, and I could hand on heart say this if it wasn't for last night, right? But like overall, what's changed for me is like I've always had a flow of creative inspiration and ideas. Like there's not much blockage in the, like we all have this totally clear pipe of ideas that come up through us, right? Like just like a clear pipe, and that pipe has always been pretty clear for me. I'm not really that interested in like if things look scary or difficult or what will they think of me, and like I just haven't really had that friction that a lot of people have, like where the thought clogs up the pipe a little bit, you know, so things like get to here and then can't get out, or but it's like, so I've always had this really clear pipe. But what's become very apparent to me is that in my own experience, where like we all have our kind of predictable favorite ways that when we are in a low mood, or when we are misusing thought, if you like, when we're in a busy mind, that shows up in our moods. So for most of us, we get low, or we get worried, or we get anxious. I didn't realize, but when I get caught up in thought, I get manic. Like I didn't realize that, although anyone around me would probably notice that. And what I've noticed since seeing that again, the invisible becoming visible, right? A coach pointing it out to me and me seeing the truth of it.
Yeah.
It changed it such that mania has disappeared. So the creation is more elegant now. It's more graceful. Yes, last night that was so misuse of thought, 3 a.m. manic thinking about what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it. It's got to be done fast, blah 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 blah, like that tightness and that energy.
Or maybe not misuse of thought.
well, but the thing is, I don't mind. It's kind of part of my creative process. Hey ho, oh well, there's always another night to get sleep, right? And it's so we'll all go off in our favorite ways. And so from time to time, when I get caught up in thought, I feel manic. But I noticed that there's a lot less of that in my experience these days. And so as a result, there's less of the pushing energy that used to be behind my creativity. Like it used to be in order to get somewhere.
Yeah.
To feel like I'd been productive, to elicit a feeling. So a feeling of an achievement, a feeling of recognition, a feeling of satisfaction, a feeling of a big ego boost,
Mm.
and all of those things at some level I thought would make me happy, which is why I went, we always kind of go after what we think is going to make us happy, right? And so with no understanding, I was doing everything that I was doing in order to change a feeling,
Yeah.
to get happy. And then what the principle's done is allow me to just sit in happy and then create stuff.
Yeah.
Which is so much easier because there's nothing on it, right? So you can create stuff, oh well, that didn't work. Create something, oh that didn't work.
There's something else.
So you can be
And
more relaxed with your creations. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of from that space of joy. And that's what I'm kind of again pointing to with this self-rediscovery journey, because it's kind of like understanding, you know, that deep listening to who we are is kind of, you know, who we are is so much more than we think. But also I kind of point to the idea that we can unravel a life we love by just unraveling it, rather than kind of and playing with who we want to be in our humanness, like just, you know, like you say, kind of playing with the gardening or playing with whatever you feel, I don't know, called towards, I guess, which is again from wisdom in a way. So I love that because it's, yeah, it just
And I think as well, like we're really having an appreciation for the unknown. So when I look at my career path, I've like changed what I do every 3 to 5 years, I think, something like that, throughout all my working career. And I never could have imagined what the next thing would be from the one before.
yeah.
And so all I have is the right now to enjoy.
Mm.
And who knows? I have no idea 3 years from now what I'll be doing. Might be a builder, might be an astronaut, like could be a vet. I don't know, like who knows, right?
Yeah.
But so all I've got is to enjoy what I'm doing while I'm doing it, for as long as I'm doing it, until the next thing comes along, and I don't have to figure out what that thing is, because I'll just find myself doing it, because that's the way of wisdom.
Yeah.
If you told me in December 2019 that in April 2020 I'd be ordering 4 tons of compost and growing a cut flower garden, I've never gardened in my life. I haven't even considered the thing. I haven't been in my garden for 6 years since we bought the house. I've never really stepped foot in it. I'm so that not interested in gardening, and yet here I am. So, and what I see time and time again is like anything's possible.
Yeah.
If you let yourself be used by whatever life has got planned for you, if you like, if you, and even if you don't, it'll use you anyway. But if you see that you're a vessel for mind to express itself in form,
Yeah.
in which way, that might be in parenting, it might be as an artist, it might be as a baker, it might be as a writer, a coach, whatever. But then our personal mind gets to live more in harmony with how life actually works. And as those two come in alignment, our personal mind and how life actually works, like life just gets more fun, it gets more enjoyable, it gets lighter, it gets more graceful, more effortless.
That's gorgeous. We've got a message in the group chat. Just at this point, if anybody does have any questions, then do just kind of pop your. I don't know in Zoom how you put your hand up, but some people
click on the participants
button. Yeah, there we go. We have people putting their hand up, so I'll just read Gemma's comment. She said, "Today's been a great example to me, feeling my thinking and thought in the moment. I've been through every different feeling." Moments of joy, sadness, anxiety, oneness, panic, and now a lovely relaxed feeling hanging out with you ladies. So that's lovely.
Yeah, and the virus is doing its thing.
Yeah,
like still it's been doing the same thing all day probably. and yet look at that roller coaster of different thoughts passing through, in the same way that today there's been clouds, a bit of wind, a bit of sun.
Yeah, and
the weather's changed all day, and the sky hasn't given a hoot. It's just sat there the whole time, and the weather's been changing all over the place. You know, it's the same with human emotion.
That's it. We have a question from Debbie. So Debbie, did you want to come on live? Let me unmute you, or you can unmute yourself if there you go.
Did I do it?
You did.
I did. Oh my goodness. First of all, that I'm even doing this is crazy. I usually hide. I don't have my face on. I hide in the back. But it's very nice to
Oh, you've muted yourself.
There we go.
Oh, there you
You know what happened? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
My phone started to ring. Okay, so yesterday I was watching the A Deeper Mind, raw and uncut, and I really enjoyed it, especially the second video where you're speaking with Dickon Bettinger. And you spoke, and in all three of them, you spoke about how it came back, and I was very curious about how you got through that.
go.
You obviously have. Oh, my phone is, um, it I really felt it. I related to it.
Yeah.
Because I've had, I'm not going to go into my whole story, but I've had a certain symptoms of my anxiety that stopped 20 something years ago. And I thought I would never feel that particular thing again. And then there was a whole problem with switching medications and whatever, and it came back. And, it was terrifying. And I'm still struggling with letting that go because, I so believed it would never come back. And now I don't trust, even though it is kind of gone, I don't trust that it's gone forever. Anyway, so, and I know it's a matter of probably just accepting that it might come back again. But I was curious how you dealt with that, because I could see your I could feel how you were feeling at that time. You were very upset that this had come back. And also in that same thing, and you could probably answer them together, I loved a metaphor that he used about, if you're holding something hot and it's hurting you, it's burning you, you let it go, you drop it. And if I was holding, a thing of roses and I'm getting stuck by the thorns, I'm going to drop it. Like I understand it in the physical sense. I just don't understand. I don't know how to drop something or let, because the thoughts I'm having are causing me pain. So let go of them, like it's the same line of thinking, but I just don't know how to do it in the mental. I know how to do it in the physical. So that's
Yeah,
my.
so maybe if I talk to the second one of those first. So when you're having like thoughts that are painful that keep running through your mind, right? So yeah, me too for all of last night, right? So I'm like, drop it, Nick, drop it. That's not helpful. You need to go to sleep. And you can't, because you never drop thought. But somehow thought gets dropped. But you can never do it. We all know that. We've all tried to stop thinking a particular thought and we can't do it. But it's something other than us that changes and moves thought along. And when we stop trying, there it goes. Now, sometimes we'll have the experience where we see that something is really unhelpful. So the example would be like my mum worrying about ventilators. And I can listen to her and my mind will start to go, then I'm like, oh my God, that's like picking up a hot poker and walking around with it. Why would you do that to yourself? And I'm not interested in doing that. And I drop it straight away. Or the thought gets dropped straight away because it makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's like picking yourself up and stabbing your eyes with a pen. Like, why would you do that? Like, I don't have to try and make myself stop that. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't want to do that. But then there are times where thought is repeating itself over and over and over and over and over in your head. Yeah, like that's going to happen forever as well. Did to me last night. And then we suffer for a bit. Oh, well, and then we don't. And so both of those are just experiences. One is the dropping of thought. The other one is having an experience of repetitive, painful thought for a while. But it always gets dropped and moved along at some point. And when I saw that I could never do it, it didn't stop me trying. but it kind of stopped me trying. It made me okay with the fact that I tried. So last night, I was wearing away in my mind, stressing myself out. I knew it wasn't helpful. I tried to stop myself. I got cross with myself for trying to stop myself because I knew it wouldn't work. And so I carried on being cross with myself, and so I suffered for a bit. But then at some point, even despite all of that, it moved on. And so, and with regards to your first point, just because I'm aware of time, so just for those people listening, to give it some context, it's what Debbie's referring to is just a series of audios inside one of my programs where I'm really glad people find it helpful, but it's me being coached. So it's quite raw and vulnerable. It's called Raw and Uncut. So it's me being coached about my own anxiety by some of the teachers in our field. And so there, one of the conversations we had was about that very thing you talked about, which is like, I was really, really anxious. I found the principles. It went away. It's amazing. It's gone forever. Woohoo! I'm so relieved. I'm so grateful it's gone. And then a few months later, it came back. And now I feel just as bad as I did before. And I'm really disappointed, and it didn't work. And I'm a failure. And I thought I'd found the thing and it didn't work. And so you were asking me, like, what made the difference at that point? And you were talking about, like, well, I just got to accept the fact that it keeps coming back. And that would be your intellect trying to take on and do, like, the same as trying to drop thought. Your mind can't accept the fact that this is going to come back and be part of your life forever until you have an insight and go, oh my God, this is going to come back forever. And so I can just stop fighting it. So I had an insight. I had a change of heart. I suddenly saw, with a huge sense of relief and a weight dropping off my shoulders, that this is part of my life forever. And with that came an unbelievable sense of freedom. But I never, ever had to try and make it be gone again. And that's all I had been doing for 20 years of my life, was trying to have it never come back. And all of a sudden that job was taken off my to-do list. But that was an insight. That was my insight for me. So as you listen, Debbie, and you get touched by what you're hearing, you'll have your own insights. And they'll shift stuff for you in a way, and you'll have an insight that I never had.
I hope so.
Well, if you listen, you can't fail to, because that's the power of truth. Like, I know that. And I know there's no human being that's immune to the power of truth, because it's our nature, it's our soul, it's our core, it's our essence. That's why there's never no hope.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions.
Yeah, I love that one, and it also kind of speaks to me of just being kind to ourselves as well when we're going through that. It's like we can so often beat ourselves up, but often it's just being kinder to ourselves. For me anyway, that's kind of my experience. And I'm trying to think. I heard something the other day that I liked about kind of when truth kind of resonates with you. It's not that it's what the other person has said, it's that it's resonated with a truth that was already in you, and that kind of spoke to me of that there as well. So I like that. And also there is on John's talk the week before last, the replay's up in there, and that he talked a lot about kind of that acceptance, the idea of kind of acceptance as well. So that might be a good one to listen to, Debbie, but thank you for sharing. I don't know if there are any more questions. There's not any coming in through the chat. So I think unless there are any more, then we'll kind of, that's a nice place to end. But if anybody does have any other questions, just speak now, or or that's it. So thank you, Nicola, for sharing today. That was really, really, it had a beautiful feeling, and that's kind of how all these conversations seem to go. So that's why I'm kind of enjoying doing them. But what you, I guess, just offering you the space to kind of share what you're working on at the moment, in case anybody's interested in learning more.
Mainly flowers. At the moment. So no, obviously I've got my all the stuff that I'm doing at the moment over at Little Peace of Mind. So so I have my programs and all the work that I do over there, my book and all that kind of stuff can be found over there. And then my flower stuff is all at the floralproject.co.uk. So that's my passion as well at the moment. So I'm kind of marrying the two in some of the work and retreats and things that I'm doing. But yeah, that's my current obsession, if you want to see like a different side to what it is that I get up to.
That's cool.
It's to me that project is love in form. And to me, A Little Peace of Mind is just is the love bit. And the flower bit is how it's coming out in form at the moment.
Oh,
until for however long it does that.
I love that. Yeah, and obviously, just for anybody who's listening, if you want to kind of continue listening, this is being extended. So we've got lovely speakers coming out. There's loads of people, including Dickon, who somebody mentioned. I love Dickon Beck as well. So he's on in a couple of weeks. We've also got next week, so the 17th of April, same time, we're live with the beautiful Jackie Ford, who's going to be sharing her journey of how she rediscovered wisdom to find her true happiness and success. So yeah, she's going to be here sharing more beautiful wisdom with us. And then Dickens the week after. So yeah, and there's loads of conversations to catch up on as well. So if you haven't kind of dived into those, then take a little look. And then if you're interested in kind of diving a bit deeper, I also have the Self-Rediscovery School, which starts in April with a program called Self-Rediscovery Foundations, which is basically kind of exploring the foundational grounding of the 3 principles that we've kind of been diving into. And yeah, so there's a nice group coming together for that, and it'll be something exciting to continue. But yeah, the summits continue as well, because it's been really fun doing those. And if anybody has any questions, then I'm always kind of here to answer. So whether that be kind of via the Self-Rediscovery Facebook group or via email, you can just pop onto my website and send me a message. But thank you again, Nicola. It's been lovely. And again, the replay will be up in the member vault, so I'm sure there's plenty of other people that will dive into that and listen as well. So
my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, well, have a lovely night.
I will do indeed. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Lots of love.
Bye.